an attempt to extort American taxpayers for hundreds of billions of dollars for illegal aliens and people that came into our country illegally from gangs, from prisons, from mental institutions. They wanted to pay them $1.5 trillion, which would have really hurt our healthcare businesses and our recipients at levels never seen before. Today, we're sending a clear message that we will never give in to extortion, because that's what it was. They tried to extort, the Democrats tried to extort our country. In just a moment, I'll sign a bill exactly like we asked Democrats to send us all along, many days ago. This cost the country $1.5 trillion, this little excursion that they took us on. Republicans never wanted a shutdown and voted 15 times for a clean continuation of funding. There's never been a time when one or the other party ever didn't sign a continuation. It's just a continuation, not a big deal. It's a continuation, and we'll talk later. Yet the extremists in the other party insisted on creating the longest government shutdown in American history, and they did it purely for political reasons. I want to thank Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, as well as House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, and numerous other great Republican leaders and congressmen and senators who are here and who frankly spent a long time in Washington getting this thing to go away. I also want to thank the broad coalition of Americans that stood with us in this fight to reopen government, including the Teamsters, the American Federation of Government Employees, the Fraternal Order of Police, AMVETS, the National Small Business Association, the American Farm Bureau, the American Trucking Association. These are all incredible patriots. The Airlines for America, the Allied Pilots Association, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, and many others, unions and non-unions. Over the past 7 weeks, the Democrats' shutdown has inflicted massive harm. They caused 20,000 flights to be canceled or delayed. They departed so many times, so late. People were hurt so badly. Nobody's ever seen anything like this one. This was a no-brainer. This was an easy extension. But they didn't want to do it the easy way.
All right. Let's pause there real quick. Do you think that it's okay for your congressman to hold up the paychecks of many Americans in order to take care of the healthcare situation? I mean, was the healthcare situation so important? I know I think the quote was that they're going to see 3 times, 4 times as much when it comes to the Obamacare onboarding going into next year, and people are starting to see it already. Is it important, though, for us to actually protect the integrity of the system? If the system is flawed and people are covered that shouldn't be covered, is that important? Does that mean anything to anybody? Because I kind of feel like people don't care. Maybe if you haven't worked for the last 45 days, 50 days, I know you care. I mean, you're like, man, just open this thing up. Somebody agree on something, right? But is it important for your leaders to actually change, to do that? Do they think it through when it comes to the people that it hurts? Because when they're in power in the White House and Congress meets, Congress may not have a check coming to them because they're part of the government, but we know that they get insider trading and insight on a lot of things that happen, and a lot of them, like Nancy Pelosi, position themselves to be successful off of the knowledge that they know that's not available to the average person. So I got to ask myself, is this something that really benefited the people? Because as you see, they only got this thing set up for, I think, till January, the end of January. After January, are we going to have another fight at the beginning of 2026? Because Democrats are already talking about Hakeem Jeffries, I think his name. Hakeem is Jeffries. He's already talking about they're ready to fight again. Is it worth fighting for when people don't? Because we're getting into Thanksgiving, and I said, man, if they made it where there's no SNAP benefits and people can't do anything for Thanksgiving and Christmas during the holiday, they can't get food, they might as well have put a knife in the heart of their of the Democratic Party. I think that just making it 45 days and doing that 45 days put a knife in the heart of the Democratic Party. And I may be wrong. But tell me what you think. Tell me.
Do it the hard way. And they look very bad, the Democrats do. They deprived more than 1 million government workers from their paychecks and cut off food stamp benefits for millions and millions more Americans in need. They caused tens of thousands of federal contractors and small businesses to go unpaid, and the total effect of the damage their antics caused will take weeks and probably months to really calculate accurately, including the serious harm that they did to our economy and to people and to families. So I just want to tell the American people, you should not forget this. When we come up to midterms and other things, don't forget what they've done to our country. I also want to call for a termination to the filibuster so that this can never happen again. If we had the filibuster terminated, this would never happen again. And don't forget, we have another date coming up in the not-too-distant future. We can never let this happen again, and we should be able to pass great, really great legislation. So I say terminate the filibuster because, by the way, the Democrats will do it immediately if they ever assumed office, which hopefully they won't. Today we had the highest.
And what he forgets is this is a cycle. So just as the right is running it up right now, when it switches over in cycle, the left is going to run it up really bad right now. And I sit back and I think about that because there's still that fight for balance. As long as you're fighting for power, you can't maintain power. Like definitely, unless you completely get rid of the other party. And only the people can actually say, hey, we're not going to be part of that anymore. But it's interesting to me that he's moving for the filibuster to be moved right now. And how will that affect everything if the Democrats take power after? Like, I don't know. You tell me.
Stock market price ever in all of the different markets. We set a record. It's the 48th time in the 9 months that I've been in office that we had this record set. So think of that, 48 times we had a record set, but today is the highest of them all. We're going to break new grounds. Nobody would have thought. I have with us not only the great political leaders, but the great business leaders of our country. They're standing right behind me and right really alongside of me. And if we would have told them a year ago that we'd be having stock prices this high, none of them, in fact, I just asked them that question, none of them would have believed it.
Man, if you're running the stock plays right now, you're making a bag. I'm telling you, you're doing a bag. And you need to save some of those profits, man. I'm letting mine just roll, just run and add into it when I see fit, when I feel led to do it. But if you are in that space, outside of yesterday, I think the stock, there was a pullback and Bitcoin dropped. Bitcoin dropped big. It dropped from 108 down to 98 right now. I think it's at 96 or 98. I think so. But anybody that's in on a market, if you're riding it right now and you're in a position, I mean, outside of the pullback right now that we've seen heavily in the tech space, especially dealing with AI, I think that AI spot, that AI play is the pullback in AI. I don't really trust a lot of this stuff. To me, it's an opportunity for more friends and more people who have the ability to get in right now. I don't feel like it. They don't. It's not justified when you talk about the pullback. I don't see why they will pull, even if they're trying to sell the thing like it's a bubble, but it's not a bubble. I mean, they haven't even stretched. They don't have the money, so they're loaning money to each other to build each other's portfolio up to do it. But still, it's a bubble. But a lot of people are eating big, man, off of this stock play. If you're in the market and you play heavy, congrats, man.
And that inures to jobs and, very importantly, to 401ks, which have also set a record today, a record high for the people that have 401ks. And also, I want to thank Walmart because they came up with a fantastic study. It was the cost of Thanksgiving coming up and the cost of Thanksgiving from a year ago under Sleepy Joe Biden. And we're 25% lower this year than we were a year ago. And it's a very inclusive report. So I want to thank Walmart. They've done it for many years, but we believe in that, and we believe in that company. I want to also thank the 8 Senate Democrats who finally did the right thing in voting to end this craziness, this madness. But unfortunately, the vast majority of congressional Democrats were happy for millions of Americans to suffer. They really did suffer, too. And the Democrats admitted, they said, well, no, we finally have a point. Even though people have to suffer, we finally have a point. And that
this is all about money. This is about power and money. And when people make this about, when you guys are making this about, okay, you're making this about Trump and you're making it about racism or any of those things, you don't get that this is about power and this is about money. This is nobody over there. None of their hands are clean. There's no such thing as your hands being clean in politics. There's not. There's not. So I hear people complain and they argue about it and they fight Trump. And so many posts I've seen you guys reply to some of my stuff. And what about this? And what about that? They don't care. Okay, listen, they don't care. They care to a certain extent when it comes to getting elected, but outside of that, they don't care. So I continuously say, this is Real Estate Lunchbox, and part of this lunchbox is understanding what's going on in the market. It's not just about real estate, and that's why I think some of the shows that I watch, they suck. Some of your real estate shows really suck, and it sucks because all you do is give a narrow perspective and you call it niche, but the stock market's going ham. AI is causing people to lose their jobs. And people just walk along like everything is good. Yeah, let's talk about the next buyer and the next seller. You can't have buyers and sellers buying houses and selling houses and you don't address the conditions of the market at the same time. And we're in a buyer's market. And in a buyer's market, if somebody was ready to buy a house, and I feel for the ones that were ready to go, that were government employees, and they had to stop in the middle of the transaction because they couldn't close. Nobody could verify their income, and it looks bad to the lender that they're not employed, even though they understand there's a government shutdown. So I feel some of those programs are just lame. They're just lame. And it's not your fault. It's just, you're just lame. That's just what it is, Because when we see what's going on here, we can't act like this is not about power and it's not about green. This isn't about color. This isn't about any of that. It's about control. It's about control. Who's going to control what rolls out in the market? Who's going to control it?
Didn't work out too well for them, but they really went out and they could appease the fringe benefits of their far left base, but that didn't work out because now their far left base is angrier than ever before. We actually elected a mayor of New York City who happens to be a communist. When was that going to happen? Remember, I said all the time during my campaign, we will never be a socialist country, and that's right. We turned out to have a communist in New York City, and if you look at his views, those are the views of a communist, not a socialist.
Do you think that being a communist or having a communist side or a socialist side, hey, what's up, Robin? Having a communist side or socialist side, do you think that's going to affect us when we move on to the midterms? Because this is all posturing for the midterms. Really, it is. I mean, he's saying it back and forth. He's more concerned with the midterms. They did it. I know the Democrats did it because of the midterms. Because I feel for people who are just caught in the middle of this. Some of us are and some aren't. Regardless of your politics, people didn't have food. Some people, we know already, a lot of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And that's why I'm an advocate. I'm a big freaking advocate in developing multiple streams of income coming from your real estate business. So if you're a realtor, if you're an investor, if you are just a buyer and a seller and you're watching this, or however, your job, this is the perfect example of why you cannot depend on this system. We can pull money out of this system. We can make things that improve our lives within this system, but we can't even be dependent on this system. Even when it comes to your streams of income, they can still collapse, but it's a lot harder. I was listening to this conversation with Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate, and it's interesting when the tone, the energy went up. And I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Nick says. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that Andrew says, but the freedom to be able to express it and then to have your whole system shut down, it's weird. We got to look at it. This is weird. This is weird. They shut everything down. Their social at one time within a span of 24 to 48 hours. If you don't think that there's some interconnection between these platforms and the monetary platforms, how do you lose your bank account and then your social media account within 24 to 48 hours? You can't depend on this system. And I hope that this taught a lot of people you can't. You got it. We don't have the luxury of being lazy. We don't. We don't have it. I think that season of being lazy is done. We ran up the bag 16, 15, 14, all the way up to the last 2 years, a year. Last 9 years. That's a full cycle. A lot of real estate agents are going to be hurting. A lot of investors are going to walk away with a ton of money. And I keep saying it because money isn't made when it's great. Real estate isn't exchanged when things are just beautiful. Real estate is exchanged when people need money to do things or to survive, and they really have to cut themselves and sell that property. So to understand the climate of what's going on, to see it, and then for a realtor to say, that's just politics, I'm not going to say or do anything about it, you make yourself look as stupid as you are. You make yourself look as dumb and stupid as you are. Now you say, Leon, how can you say that when you're a Christian and blah, blah, blah? Listen, don't talk all that fable stuff to me. Don't talk. Ignorance and stupidity is always echoed in the Bible. That's why we hear wisdom is the principal thing. Why? It wouldn't say wisdom is the principal thing if there was a bunch of dumb, if there wasn't dumb and darkness out there.